It started off with my grandfather. They were called the O'Dugans when they came here from County Cork, Ireland in the early 1800s. And my great grandfather was born in Massachusetts, and in I think 1826. My grandfather was born in 1869 in Massachusetts, and he migrated down here to the coast. He loved the water and he loved fishing. He came to Mississippi City first and was working in the shipyard in Mississippi City, and decided he wanted to run a boat. That's where his true love was. So he came over to Biloxi and he met Mary Ella Bennett and married her, my grandmother, and started working for Lowell Desport as a shrimper. They had 6 boys and 6 girls, and of course the boys worked on the boat with him quite a bit. And he listened. He wanted, if weather was bad, he would take the family and go to the boat. He didn't want to stay on land when it was bad weather. He loved the water. Period. And he drowned in 1916 in a storm that hit the Mississippi coast, and he was at Chandelier shrimping. It was really odd because he was shrimping on July the 5th when the storm came in, and back then they didn't shrimp until end of August, 1st of September when the white shrimp showed up. But someone had been fishing at Chandelier Island and said, "Look, there's a bunch of shrimp. We've seen a bunch of white shrimp, big shrimp." And some of the boys from Louisiana was going over and making some pretty good brill hauls. And what a brill haul was is you take a seine that's 12, 1,500 foot, and you come in a circle. When it's too many shrimp to go in a bag, you had to throw the brill net in the middle of it and brill the shrimp out of it into a skiff till you got enough out of it that you could bag it. So my Uncle Arthur, he was a young man, just married. He was a newlywed. And he decided he wanted to go make that trip because he needed the money, just being a newlywed. And my grandfather said, "Well, we'll go. We'll make a trip." Well, the other brothers that worked on the boat with him, my Uncle Freddie and my Uncle Charlie, they didn't want to go. And especially my Uncle Freddie, because he didn't like the boat. The Emma Harvey was the one he was working. It was a small schooner, about 40 foot. And he said she wasn't a good boat in bad weather, and he would rather have worked the Cavalier, another schooner that they run. But my grandfather wanted to take the Emma Harvey to Chandelier, and they wanted to shrimp. And of course, when they got to Chandelier, no radios or warnings back then, the storm of 1916 hit and washed the boat off of Chandelier Island, and it was found around Cedar Point, Florida, Pensacola area. Both masts had been cut out of her, but no bodies were found, and nobody ever knew what happened to them. We all assumed they must have drowned. And my Uncle Freddie, he always blamed himself because he said if I'd have been on the boat, he says, I'd have took a different route. And my grandfather would always let him handle the boat in bad weather because he was a good boat captain. But anyway, he didn't. And the boat later was recovered and taken to Dauphin Island, Louisiana. It was used as a ferry. And Dauphin Island, before the bridge was built, to take people back and forth. The guy that was running the boat also used to shrimp in between. One day they found a boat going in a circle out there inside of Dauphin Island and went aboard to see what happened. And the guy had fallen overboard and went in the trawl and drowned. So the boat had a lot of bad luck. And they took it and they had it tied up next to the bridge at Dauphin Island. And I remember going over as a kid, and I was going on the boat, and I could see my grandfather's initials carved in the deck beams, and my uncle's initials and all. And it stayed there until 1969, not 69, 79, when Hurricane Frederick hit, and Hurricane Frederick took her out into the marsh somewhere and broke her up. Nobody knew what happened to it after that. And they all came here from Ireland. Ireland was having some bad times, and they wanted to come over here for a better life. And after working in a shipyard, he just decided he needed to run a boat. He liked to sail, and that's what he did. And so he got to come over here and got a job sailing a schooner. Back then, there wasn't a whole lot in the seafood industry anyway, but later, yeah, a lot of them came and followed. The O'Keefes, they're a big family here from Ireland, and we do have quite a bit of Irish heritage here, yeah. Well, my grandfather, he was all Irish, straight from Ireland, and of course, then he married my grandmother. She was a Bennett with an Irish heritage as well. And of course, my daddy, he was the baby of the family, Frank Dugan. There was 12 kids, 6 boys, 6 girls, and my daddy was the baby of the family. And he married a woman by the last name of Vavadic, who was Yugoslav. Well, of course, they claimed to be Austrian because they came here before the fall of Austria, and they claimed that descent. And so I got French, Irish, and Austrian both in me. I belong to all the clubs. I belong to the Slavonian Lodge. I belong to the Fleur de Lis, and yeah, I go to everybody's party. That's right. I'm a mixture. I'm a Heinz 57. When they first came here, 100 years ago, they didn't mix. The Yugoslavs didn't marry the French didn't marry the Yugos, and so forth. But as time went on, that changed, and they all started intermarrying, but they still kept their identity. They keep their own clubs, and so they keep up their heritage. And I think that's a great thing. The French, they lost their heritage and their French language, and because people made fun of them because of talking French, or they wouldn't let their kids talk French because they didn't want nobody to make fun of them. And that's a shame that they lost that. But they're starting to bring that back too. So everybody's starting to identify with who they really are, their roots. We have a big St. Patrick's Day parade here, and I worked the police department for 32 years, and so I used to have to work those St. Patty Day parades. And I mean, they really throw a heck of a party now. And and I guess it's still, all of it ends up right here at Mahoney's. We had an old policeman I used to work with, and he used to call us Mary Mahojeviches. He said she wasn't an Irishman, she was a Croatian, because her maiden name was Satanovich, but she married a Mahoney. And of course, this is where the Irish all end up partying on St. Patty's Day. This is the place. Best corned beef and cabbage in the world is here too on St. Patty's Day. I like everything. I love it. I really don't like going on vacations. My vacation is to get in my boat and play in the Gulf. I guess that salt water got in my veins as a very young man, and it stayed there. My Uncle Freddie, he was a fisherman all of his life, and he taught me how to knit and fish and make all kinds of nets, and I fell in love with it. My father was the baby of the family, and he was the only male that didn't participate in a nautical career. He became a mechanic and worked for the oars, and started working for him in 1924. The famous potter George Orr, his son, and worked for him as a mechanic. But all the rest of the brothers had a nautical career. He worked on shrimp boats. Or my Uncle Walter, he worked shrimp boats. He worked government tugs. He actually, during the war, taught pilots how to navigate, and worked out a government boat out of Houston, out of Galveston, Texas. The Dugan family kind of branched out, and my Uncle Henry had a daughter that married a Trosset, and they moved to Galveston, Texas, and opened up one of the biggest shipyards in Texas. They built government boats during the war, and afterwards it became a big facility building yachts and stuff. So we kind of married and spread across, The Ross family is a big family here that came out of Bon Secours, and my Uncle Johnny Dugan's daughter, she married Amos Ross, Sophie and Amos Ross, and so I'm kin to just about everybody on the coast here, and then they married into the Fountains. So we kind of spread across.